Roman Melnik is a construction worker who is really into his job and spends most of his time there as his wife and daughter are in New York. He goes to report to his boss about the job being ahead of schedule and starts making more plans, but his boss urges him to head home to prepare for the arrival of his wife and pregnant daughter. Roman claims he already has everything prepared for their arrival, but his boss insists that he leave work early and not come in tomorrow as he is about to be a grandfather. His boss kicks him out, so Roman heads home where he has a shower and excitedly prepares himself. Later he arrives at the airport with flowers but notices that the flight with his family is delayed. He goes to the counter for more info about the flight, but the workers there are very nervous to explain. One woman pulls him aside and takes him to a back office, still not explaining what is happening, and leaves him there to wait. Roman is confused, but not thinking much about it, he waits. Soon a contact from the airport management office named Eve arrives. In a somber tone, she explains that the flight with his family met in an accident, and it's unlikely there were any survivors. Roman stands, unable to process what he has just heard. He tells Eve that his daughter was pregnant before hearing other families screaming in anger around him. Roman then passes out from the stress. He wakes in the medic ward where Eve tells him about the family support center available to him nearby and the services they offer, but Roman refuses and begins to zone her out. He makes the long walk back to his car where he sits for hours, lost in his thoughts. A day earlier we meet Jacob, an air traffic controller, with his wife Christina and son Samuel. He leaves for work that night and arrives for his shift in the control tower, where his coworker is already there. Since Jacob has arrived, the coworker goes to take a break. Soon after, some technicians arrive to work on the down telephone lines used to communicate with other airports. Jacob starts directing the incoming flights on their flight levels when his supervisor comes in, telling him to reach out to another airport regarding a rerouted flight. Getting a bit distracted, Jacob soon notices that two planes are at 10,000 feet and tells one to descend, not hearing the other pilot reporting that his TCAS has alerted him. While Jacob goes to try to contact the other airport, the pilot with the TCAS alert decides to descend since he got no confirmation from Jacob. Jacob realizes too late the mishap, and the two airplanes disappear from his radar. Jacob is soon called into a meeting with the airport management and is told about the crash mid-air, and that there were no survivors. Jacob, now in shock and tears, asks how many people were on the planes, but does not get an answer as they plan to find out what happened and urge Jacob to keep it together. After going through questioning about the series of events at the airport, Jacob is taken to the police station for further criminal questioning. He is soon released and urged by his lawyer not to talk to anyone or leave his house until they contact him. He returns home where he sees his wife already watching the news about the accident. Roman is also watching the news which shows the crash site. He gets a call from Eve asking about his well-being and reminding him to visit the family support center, but Roman hangs up the call. He then grabs his keys and hits the road, making the long drive to the crash site. Pretending to be a part of the search team, Roman gets himself a hazmat suit and goes searching for his family. There are bodies on the plane, but his family is not there, so he goes deeper into the woods littered with clothes and bodies. He then finds his wife's necklace on a tree, then finds his wife and daughter suspended in a tree. He retrieves their bodies, breaking down in tears, and holds his family. He then sits between the two bodies, unable to leave them. Christina returns home one day to find her house vandalized by people calling Jacob a murderer. She heads inside where he has not left the bed for the entire day, falling into depression. He is no longer himself as one morning he wakes and tries making breakfast for Samuel, but the eggs are raw and he and Christina get into a fight, after which she takes Samuel and leaves. Roman is also falling into depression. He often visits his family's grave site and falls asleep there, and the security guard has to wake and send him home every night. When he is at home, he has videos of his daughter and wife on repeat, unable to move on. One day, a journalist named Tessa knocks at his door. Roman does not answer, but she explains that she is writing a book about the accident and wants to interview him. She slides some of her articles under his door as proof that she is trying to stick to the facts and not sensationalize the incident. Tessa leaves and Roman picks up her articles and goes through them. That night, Roman's boss turns up with a meal for him as he knows he hasn't been eating. The boss asks how he is, and learns that Roman is very lost, as he is unable to get anything done around the house and still feels the urge to spend more time with his family. His boss understands, and tells him to take as much time as he needs to get through this. Christina tells Jacob that she will be taking Samuel to spend a few nights with her family, as their marriage has fallen apart because of his lack of communication with her. Jacob does not protest this, and agrees. The next day, he purchases a gun in town and keeps it close to him for his own protection. He is called into a meeting at the airport and is hounded by reporters as he rushes in. Inside, His lawyer and boss have concluded that it would be best for Jacob to move to another city under an entirely new identity. He is concerned about leaving his family, but they think this would be best for his family's safety and peace of mind. Roman is called in to meet with the lawyers representing the airport, as he was the only family member to sue the airline. In return for Roman withdrawing all claims in court, they plan to take care of his funeral and medical expenses, and pay a total of $160,000 in damages for his family's death. Roman instead wants the company to apologize for the death of his family. The men refuse, warning Roman to accept the agreement as he will not win in court. Roman demands that the lawyer look at his family's photo, but the man stares at Roman, so Roman storms out. Jacob goes to see a psychiatrist who tries getting him to talk about what is happening, but Jacob demands that he just prescribe him some pills. Later, he takes a handful initially trying to end things, but causes himself to throw up after seeing a marker belonging to his daughter. One evening, Roman downs a bottle of alcohol, then breaks into his job. He climbs to the top of the building prepared to end his suffering and join his family, however, he changes his mind. 1 year later, Roman meets up with the families of the other victims at the inauguration of a newly completed memorial at the crash site. He visits the sphere erected for his family when he is approached by one of the grieving fathers. The man asks for Roman's advice as he does not know how to move on, and finds himself stuck in bed. Roman tells him to be strong and he will eventually find a reason to move on, but when the man asks Roman if he is over it, he cannot respond. Jacob has now moved to another state and works at a travel agency under the name Pat D'Albert. Roman has also moved to another town and keeps himself occupied with carpentry. One night, however, things change. Roman goes to meet with Tessa, asking for her help in tracking down Jacob. Tessa gets in contact with Jacob, asking if he would like to add a statement to her book as he has refused in the past. Jacob explains that he thinks about the families all the time and he just wants the pain to go away. He then tells Tessa that he is not a bad person. Roman gets a call from Tessa and the two meet inside a cafe. Tessa is reluctant to give Roman Jacob's address, worried about what he might do with that info. Roman reassures her that he just wants to look Jacob in the eye as he apologizes for the loss of his family. Hearing this, Tessa gives up Jacob's fake name and address. Roman then sits alone in his car before making the long journey to see Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob is at home preparing dinner when there is a ring at his doorbell. He removes the gun from his drawer before opening the door to see his wife and his son there to greet him. Christina is glad to see him and notes that he is looking much better. After dinner, the two talk over wine. Jacob confesses that he feels alone at times in a strange house. Jacob then suggests that Christina and Samuel move in with him as he misses his family, but Christina thinks they should take things slow. The two then cuddle and prepare for bed. The next morning, Roman arrives at the apartment building and makes his way up to Jacob's apartment. At that moment, Christina awakens and is in the bathroom when she hears the doorbell ring. Jacob is asleep, so she goes to the front door but sees no one there. Roman has gotten himself a room at a motel nearby and is plagued with thoughts of his family, unable to rest. The next evening, he sets out once more. Meanwhile, Jacob is playing games with his family. He is in the kitchen when he hears the doorbell and reluctantly heads over and opens the door. He comes face to face with Roman, who shows him a picture of his family, blaming him for their deaths and demanding an apology. Jacob, however, pushes the photo away and threatens to call the police on Roman. Roman, now consumed with rage, suddenly stabs Jacob in the stomach and the neck, and Jacob falls, bleeding out. Christina and Samuel stumble upon the scene, and Roman, in his delusion, calls them by his wife's and daughter's names. He then takes a seat beside the two, as Jacob bleeds to death on the floor. Roman is then sentenced and serves 10 years in prison before he is informed by his lawyer that due to the circumstances surrounding his crime, he is now eligible for parole. Roman is soon released on parole and takes a bus to visit his family's grave, unaware he is being followed. He gets to the grave when he is approached by the young man pretending to ask for directions. As Roman leads the young man and talks about his family, the boy reveals himself to be a grown-up Samuel. Samuel pulls a gun and aims it at Roman, demanding that he turn away. Roman tells him to do what he must do and apologizes. Samuel breaks down, then decides not to kill Roman as it is not what he was taught. He takes a seat and cries, and Roman walks away, forced to live with himself.